Alright guys, it's Chatterbox Reviews. Coming to you guys with another tier list video. This one I'm going to be ranking the best TV show intros. Alright, so it's been a little bit since I did a tier list, a video here on the channel. I've only done a few so far, but I have really enjoyed the ones I have done, especially the one where I ranked every TV show I have seen. Not completely every show, but most of them, every TV show I've seen ranked. So really enjoyed putting that one together, and the support, the comments on that, I really appreciate that as well. So this is a little bit probably more similar to that ranking, though I'm not actually looking at the quality of the TV shows in the ranking. It is just solely based on their intros. And what I mean by intros, I've seen some stuff around there about ranking intros, but usually it's just the theme song or like the music right at the begining. But I'm really wanting to take a look at the visual as well, so like the opening credits, I guess it is referred to as well. So it's the visual, and of course the song plays a part in that, but it's both, right? So it's not just the theme song, it's going to be the opening credits plus the song or the score in some cases that goes along with that. So that's what I'm going to be ranking here in this list. And like I said, not every one of these shows I would agree is, and a lot of other people would probably agree as well, that they're not the best shows, right, in terms of quality. But that doesn't really matter for this ranking. It's solely just based on the intros. So I definitely do, at least in my opinion, right, have some shows on here that are not the greatest in my opinion, right, but they have some really good intros kind of despite that. So I think this is kind of an interesting way, different way, if you will, to look at some of these shows. Whereas I wouldn't rank them, in a tier list like this as some of the best. So I think it'll be really interesting to see. And obviously, a caveat here is that I did choose only TV show intros that I have seen the show that the intro is for, right? And now some of these shows, I love them. I watched their whole run. They're some of my favorite shows of all time, for sure. You'll see some overlap here with the video ranking on my TV shows. But some of these I've only seen, a season of, or, maybe, I think almost all of them I've seen at least a season of, but maybe some of them that I've only seen a few episodes of here and there. But the intro stands out and I remembered it, and so I was able to kind of know enough about the show to kind of put it here still. So, but I have had to have seen at least, a few episodes of the show's intro that I'm putting on this list. So there are some shows that are probably missing here, though I did look into some big ones that I haven't seen, and I wasn't blown away by any of them. Maybe The Wire is one. I have not seen more than just a couple episodes of season 1 for that. So that's kind of an example of one where it's not going to be on this list, but I did watch the intro and I'm like, yeah, that would probably be in terms of the best TV intros. But anyways, that's just what it is. So it's just the shows that I have seen. But I love to hear your guys' thoughts on some of the shows that I haven't seen that are not included on this list. And of course, if you've seen these shows and you've seen these intros, what do you think of these intros? All that stuff. So love to hear your guys' input either way, if you have or haven't seen these shows, and some that I'm missing as well, because I'm sure I'm missing quite a few, probably more than just The Wire there. But anyways, if you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel as well. We'll really appreciate that. But without any further ado then, let's get in now to the tier list ranking. Alright, so now we're here on the tier list, and of course I made this because it's all based on TV shows that I have seen. So if you are interested in doing this tier list, obviously you don't have to rank every show here, but if you've seen some of these as well and you'd like to rank some of their intros, for sure I'll leave the link in the description, so feel free to do that. But yeah, so I had to go ahead and make this one for the tier list here. So just tier list, and so there's 42 shows here that we're doing the intros of. Hopefully it doesn't end up being too many. We'll have to see. So 42 of the best, obviously, in my opinion, because these are shows that I've seen. So 42 of the best TV show intros. And I just kind of put opening credits in brackets because I think maybe more people are familiar with that. And then that also kind of makes it clear that I'm talking about the song and the score plus the credits, the visual aspect of things. So anyways, so here's the tier list here. like I said, 42 shows, and here's the collection here of all the posters for the shows there. And then for the tiers, I just kept it very basic, right? So there's S, A, B, C, D, and E, and I think that should be enough. I was thinking of doing an F tier, but I really don't think there's going to be anything in an F tier, because after all, this is the best 42, and obviously I had to make many cuts of TV shows that I have seen that have really great intros. So it'd be hard to see that one would end up in F. But anyways, I put an E tier, to have as many tiers as we can to kind of hopefully spread things out. But anyways, having said all that, let's get into the first one then, and it's kind of a randomized order, I think, maybe some alphabetical here, but anyways, so the first one, and we're starting off with a massive bang here, and it is Band of Brothers on HBO, the miniseries there. So in terms of opening credits, I mean, I think this was, 2002, I want to say it came out, or 2001, the miniseries here from Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks. And, of course, the other two miniseries from them with Masters of the Air and the Pacific, we will talk about a little later. There's Masters of the Air, and the Pacific is down here. So, spoiler alert, they're all great. I think Band of Brothers is the second best out of the three of them. The score is just amazing, and all of the visuals that we get throughout this intro sequence, it's just amazing. It's like little moments of the show kind of sprinkled out, and some of the moments, I don't want to spoil too much, of course, if you haven't seen it, but something like Buck, right? I think is it Buck? Bucky or Buck? I can't remember now. Neil McDonough's character, at least, from the miniseries, when he drops the helmet. It's such an iconic sequence and moment in the show, like as it's taking place. But it actually becomes even more iconic with it being literally in this intro sequence. And if you watch just the intro sequence like I did for the first time, while watching this series for the first time, that moment is like, oh, like I wonder what's happening there. A guy's dropping his helmet. But then, on a rewatch, like I have also done, it means a lot more when you see that in the intro. So there's little moments like that they piece together. The score is amazing. And it's like a whole 2 or more than 2 minute long intro to the show, which is, it may actually be the longest of any show here. Maybe the Pacific would be close because I think they're similar. But anyways, so only good things to say about Band of Brothers. The only thing that the other miniseries I like better is there's a little more to it. There's a little bit more of an artistic thing there, whereas this, it really is more on the editing, of just editing a lot of these clips together to make it kind of a big, a really great intro. So this is tough. It's got to be either an S or A. And you know what? I'm going to put it in S. I really am. I think it's going to be our first S entry so far. We're starting off great, but it really is. It really deserves to be in the S tier there. Again, I think there's better score. I think there's better kind of artistic intros for sure that we're going to talk about. But I think it's got to be an S tier for sure. And Band of Brothers is an S tier show for me as well. To me, probably the best miniseries ever made. So anyways, okay, so the next one then is Better Call Saul. Now, this is something I did want to bring up because it's almost hard to compare an intro like Band of Brothers to an intro like Better Call Saul, because Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad and a few others here are about like 15 seconds, right? That's if you watch it on YouTube, it's about a 15-second piece that is actually the intro of the show. And in both Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad's case, it literally is just the name of the show and then created by Vince Gilligan and then created by Vince Gilligan and Peter Gould, right? That's all we see in this intro. Now, I did want to put it still on this list because it is memorable. Like, the Breaking Bad intro is really memorable, and we'll get to that in a second. But first of all, the Better Call Saul one, I think it maybe is better than the Breaking Bad intro. I think Breaking Bad intro is more iconic, but in both cases, the score is really what sells it, right? And the thing with Better Call Saul is that we get different visuals as the backgrounds for the logo of, the Better Call Saul logo coming up on the screen. And we kind of get that, like, flashes of neon light and everything. So I think it's really cool. Again, I can't put it in S. Maybe even I really can't put it in A tier either. But it is really cool. Like it's a really cool intro, and again the score of just that da 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 kind of thing. And that was probably bad, but anyways, it's a kind of like 3 or 4 notes in a row to open it up, and you know exactly what you're watching, right? It catches you right away. So yeah, I think I'm gonna go probably. This is tough. I was thinking B, but maybe top of C, just because it's so short and there's really not a lot to it. But I think I'm going to go B just because of the way they were able to switch the backgrounds and add something unique to each intro. Whereas, spoiler alert, but Breaking Bad doesn't do that. It really is just static the whole series. Okay, so we'll put it in B for now. With that intro, very simple, but I think there's enough there to kind of keep it unique as well. So we'll put that in B there. Another massive one is True Detective Season 1, and I think I have to put it in S. I mean, there's not really much debate here. The song that they have for the season, it's so perfect. I mean, so perfect to what the feel and the vibe of the show really is. This 8-episode miniseries here on HBO. With Woody Harrelson, Matthew McConaughey, again, probably an S tier show for me as well. Yeah, I think this intro is S tier, and there's something else so the song is great, but the other thing too is that, to me at least, I think, and I've seen this with other more recent TV show intros or opening credits, is the way that they do the art of this intro is where we have the heads of people. So we have Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey's heads, but then we have, scenes and images playing out within their head. It's kind of hard to describe, but if you see the intro, obviously, you would know what I'm talking about, right? It's like the inverted images that are playing. So we have a background going on, and then we have the head, of the character, and then scenes are playing out within the head, within the outline or kind of the silhouette of the head. And I've seen other TV show intros not do the exact same thing, but very similar, where they have images like that playing out, and then we kind of see it in the silhouette of those images. So to me, and I think it kind of started a trend, if you will, like that, where it kind of developed this whole kind of approach to that with showing different images within other images and this kind of thing. And it also shows some really, important details, kind of like Band of Brothers, where we see some very important details throughout this intro sequence that, again, once you've seen the show all the way through, you go back and you're like, oh, that was in the intro the whole time, right? And so you see these little glimpses and almost like Easter eggs, really, in the intro the whole time. And like I said, the music, just the visual look of it too, it just really sets the vibe and the tone. So yeah, and again, it's a very long one, about a minute and a half or something like that. So yeah, I think it's an S tier intro. Again, if not only for kind of the trend that they started with that kind of artistic approach. And I do have True Detective Season 2 and 3 both listed here because, of course, there's different intros for each season. But they are actually very similar. I only noticed that kind of like just before, putting this together, that I'm like, oh, I guess they're pretty similar, right? Because they all have the same design and approach. But season 1, I think, is the best, with the way they do it. And again, teasing so many important little details in it, whereas the other seasons don't do that as much. But anyways, we'll get to those for sure. Okay, so a good start here. We got a lot of, high ranking ones. And this next one is going to be up there as well. It is Black Sails on Stars. This intro, I mean, just and a few of these intros have this, right? Like some like Game of Thrones for sure. Even Better Call Saul, Breaking Bad, you could throw those in there. It's like the first note or the first few notes of the song is just like right away. You're like, oh, it's that show, right? Or it's this intro. And I think Black Sails is that. Like, it's Bear McCreary here composing, and he does the Walking Dead score as well for the intro, and he may have done some other ones here too, but just so good. The music is so good, and it sets you in that kind of pirates mode, that kind of era, right? Of I believe I want to say, is it not a saxophone, but it's something. It's an instrument there that really kind of puts you right into that world, in where you kind of, you pair that instrument with that world, or that kind of theme of stuff with pirates and that. Maybe that's Pirates of the Caribbean too. Maybe that has something to do with it as well, with this way that they score those films. But anyways, having the song in there, and then the whole intro is really just these sculptures of the ships and different, I think they're pirates or different like figures of people, and really as the images keep coming in the intro, you kind of see the bigger picture of that it's a ship, or that it's a different kind of object or statue or stuff like this, and they're all kind of just clay figurines. So I think it's really cool. Again, the song really sells it to me as well, and then the sculpture, the art of it is really cool as well. Now, the one thing that I do think a show, the intro needs to have to be an S tier, is to show those details of the show, to have something where you have something that you're teasing with the show again. So if you watch the show on a rewatch, or you're on the last episode, you catch some things, like I've said for True Detective and Band of Brothers so far, and this one you don't get that. Majority of these you will not get that, and so that's something that takes it down a peg. That'd be the only reason why it wouldn't be in S tier, or maybe even A tier. The song is really good, but yeah. So I think I'm going to have to go top of B tier with Black Sails for now. Really like the intro, and it doesn't, again, the sculptures are not, unless I'm missing something here, but the sculptures I don't believe are of any of the main characters or anything like that. So yeah, it's a little bit kind of disconnected perhaps from the show. So we'll put it in B tier for now with Black Sails, but really great, really great. Okay, so maybe perhaps the most recent one actually of any of these shows here is The Regime. This was a show that the miniseries starring Kate Winslet on HBO that came out a couple months ago, maybe 3 months ago. Kind of in the springtime. So I did do a review on the channel if you're interested in my thoughts at all. Kind of mixed on the series overall. But this intro, I had to put it in here because in terms of the recent intros, I think it's easily one of the best, if not the best, that I've seen. It's really great. You get Alexander Desplat doing the score for the intro and for the series as well. But just really great music. Again, it really captures you right away and really sets the tone of the series. And I said this in the review, it almost feels kind of like a Wes Anderson film in the way that it's approached and its kind of design. Of course, Desplat does a lot of the scoring for Wes Anderson films, so 2 and 2 equals 4 for sure. But it does. This sample, this music here, really captures the exact tone that they're going for with the series, and I think it's really great. And then of course within the intro with the visuals, you're seeing kind of the flag kind of being up on the flagpole of this fictional country, and then we're seeing these black and white video of the well, I'm assuming, right, it's supposed to be kind of the history of this fictional country. We see like marches, and of course it's a dictatorship, right, at the center of this regime, given the title, and so we're seeing kind of like the marches, and I would assume kind of how it came to be, right, how they took over the country and this kind of thing, and of course teasing kind of historical things probably, right, with something like the fascists in Italy, probably Nazis in Germany, right, similar kind of things with the marches and the big armies and everything like that. We even get some drum beats as well, like it's literally like a marching kind of drum, as it's going, as the visuals are playing out. So yeah, I think it's really great. I really do. No, it doesn't have specific scenes or visuals from the show itself, but it just, that background is really cool to kind of set things up. So I think I'm gonna have to put it in B tier probably. I do really like it. I'll probably put it over Better Call Saul maybe for now. And you know what? I think I am going to move Better Call Saul down. Just looking at these two, way more sophisticated than Better Call Saul, so we'll put Saul down there. But anyways, we'll put the Regime there in B tier. Okay, so next then is Counterpart on Stars. So this one, it only had 2 seasons and was canceled a little too early in my opinion. But it was J.K. Simmons playing 2 characters. He's basically playing himself twice, because the whole concept of the show was that there was an alternate dimension or an alternate universe or alternate world where, there's literally given the title, there's a counterpart of everybody, right? So everyone has 2 copies of themselves. And I believe, at the center of it, him being the main character, the whole kind of concept of the show is that his counterpart, or his, the other version of him, was completely different than his in this world, just kind of by chance. And so that's kind of the whole concept of the show. And it really is, used in this intro as well. I think they really do a good job in kind of dividing a lot of the visuals in that. So it looks like there's 2 sides to everything, and 2, even at one point, I really like the way they do it. And it's kind of like a bunch of these cubicles, almost, right? And then it's his 2 characters kind of walking on either side of it, on either side of the walls. So I think it's pretty cool. They kind of work with some black and white as well, and kind of shading it. So yeah, I thought it was cool. The music is also pretty cool in it as well. But I don't know, like overall, is it, insane? Not really. Again, not using any kind of visuals for the show either. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe in D tier, I like some things about it, but I think that's probably fine. I think the, artistic is pretty cool, the way they do the visuals, but nothing insane about it for sure. Okay, so next then is Breaking Bad. I already kind of talked a little bit about it, but yeah, I mean, the score here, amazing, right? Like, just again, the first note or first 2 notes of this intro, exactly what it is. And even, the way that Breaking Bad has become so popular, and even in the recent years with kind of the memes of it as well, like, this intro song or score is so popular. Anybody, even that hasn't seen the show, I think, would recognize this immediately, that this is, the Breaking Bad intro, or at least, would just know the piece of music, not necessarily even associating with the show. But anyway, so iconic. And then, of course, the whole periodic tables, which is a real big, chemistry. It's at the center of the show with Walter White cooking meth. And, of course, with the logo, the marketing, all of the art for the show, you can literally see it here, is the BRBA, right, from the elements of the periodic table, and then it goes into the title of Breaking Bad. So we get that in the intro with all the elements joining together. Then we see Breaking Bad, and then we get the kind of yellow mist kind of wiping it away, and then we get it created by Vince Gilligan. So yeah, I think it's just an iconic intro. Again, it's probably about 15 seconds. It's not a long one. It's not very sophisticated, but for what it is, I think it's really great. So like I said with the other ones, I can't put this above Better Call Saul just because it is really static. It's literally the same, unless I'm just forgetting, but I'm almost positive. It's just the same throughout the entire run of the show. So it's great, but it's kind of just the same. So we're going to put it in C tier under Better Call Saul. But to me, I think those are 2 kind of similar, intros at the end of the day. Okay, so next we have a really interesting one. It's The Twilight Zone, the original series from 1959. And so this one was so difficult because I knew the intro in my head when I first thought of this video and the list of all these shows I wanted to do. I knew exactly the version of the intro that I wanted to include here, and so it took a little digging to see, but apparently it is the intro, I believe it's for season 3, that it first started, and then I think it continues till the end of the series, but it first aired in like 1962 or 63, something like that, but they had many iterations of this intro, but, along the same lines of, and you're entering into the Twilight Zone, right, with Rod Serling's iconic, slogan there, or kind of his intro, his introduction with his narration. Or actually, I'm not sure if it's his voice in the intro or not. But anyways, really iconic, really great. But this specific version I'm talking about, which is I believe 1963, season 3 of the original show, is the one with the, I guess a lot of them have the door too. This is so hard to get the right one, but the music is so iconic for the Twilight Zone. It's so unnerving and so like creepy almost, and I can just imagine for audiences in 1960 when that came on the TV, I'm sure you knew exactly what show you were watching, and the kind of mood and the vibe that it established, like I said, immediately with the first couple notes of that music. It's just iconic. It really is. And then to this day, I think a lot of people would recognize that music. And yeah, the version of the intro that I'm referring to here is also, I think, the longest one. I think it's like maybe 20 to 30 seconds. And they do kind of, you can actually see it in this little poster. It's like minuscule, I know, but it's the one where like the E equals MC flies out through the screen, and we get a few other kind of visuals where they, talk about, the different senses, right, of sight and mind, and then, you're entering into the Twilight Zone. So, anyways, I have seen a few episodes. I've not seen the whole original series, of course, but I've seen probably most of, like, the iconic episodes, maybe, like, 8 to 10 in total, and I love the intro, watching it back. So, anyways, having said all that, I'm not sure. This one just is so iconic to me. Obviously, yeah, it hasn't aged well. You can really tell that it's like just projections of all the stuff going through the screen, of course. But it's you can't really go back and really compare it to some of these modern shows. So I'm not sure where I'm gonna put it. I just think it's so iconic with the music, and then you get the door opening as well, and that whole thing goes in. And all of the other versions of the show have used some sort of, version of that intro with the door in it and the same kind of words being spoken. And there's been, I believe, 4 iterations, counting the new modern one now, or more than that, and the movies as well. And they used a similar kind of intro. So it's really iconic at this point. So you know what? Let's put it in A. Let's put it in A tier for now. Again, the iconic version of it, but at the end of the day, I'm gonna pick some of the modern ones over it, with just the artistic style of it, but still really iconic. Okay, that's enough. That'll be an A tier for now. Now let's get to the next one, and that is Dark on Netflix. So, I have not finished the Dark series, unfortunately. I watched season 1, and then after season 1, I think I started season 2, and I watched it in a terrible environment, and I just never went back to it after that, unfortunately. Nothing to do with the show, really. It was just the environment I watched it in. I was like tired and just didn't, and you really need to be awake to watch Dark and really try to understand things and everything. So anyways, I didn't watch season 2 or finish the show, which I do want to do one day. But this intro really stood out to me. Love the song. I believe the song is also featured in Breaking Bad. And so when I first saw this intro, and I only first watched season 1 of the show, probably around the time season 3 came out, around that time. So when I first saw the intro, I'm like, wait, I recognize this song. And then, of course, I looked into it, and it is from Breaking Bad, the season 4 finale. I think it's maybe used in the credits. So right away, I recognize that song from listening to a lot of the Breaking Bad soundtrack over the years and all that. And the song is great, and it so fits this show. And just, again, kind of that unnerving kind of, that surreal kind of feeling to it, right, with that kind of the song. I forget the name of the song now. I think it's by Apparat is the band, if that's how you say it. Goodbye, I think is what it's called. Yeah, Goodbye, kind of goes like that. But yeah, just so kind of creepy. And then the intro with everything kind of being 2, right, and then it kind of explodes into each other, and it's this really kind of yeah, it's just really kind of this creepy, fascinating look, as it kind of melts into each other and then explodes again and comes back out. So really, really interesting visuals for this, the song along with it. So yeah, I think it's really great, and I think I'm gonna have to put it. It is very unique. It isn't an original score though, so that's something that I might kind of dock it a little bit. So we might put it here. I might put it just in B, at the bottom of B there. Because of the non-original score, we might put it there. But it is really a haunting intro and something that's really memorable. Again, I've only seen about one season of the show, and I just, in my mind, while I was talking about that, I can picture the whole intro and remember the song, obviously. So, yeah, really, really fascinating intro. Really great job there with that one, for sure. Okay, so next then is The Terror on AMC. This is just the season 1 intro, because obviously they had a different one for season 2, and I did not watch season 2 or pass the first couple episodes of season 2. Season 1 I think is amazing, season 2 not so much. But anyways, this intro for The Terror Season 1, I actually had to go back and look at this because I, admittedly, and it probably won't be that high on the list because of this, but I didn't remember the intro that well. I hold the season in high regard, but I didn't remember the intro that well. But looking back at it, I think it's really great. The song, the score of the intro, and I didn't even notice this either while I was watching it, but now, looking back on it, they actually changed the score as the season goes on with these episodes, and they kind of take the piano and make it lighter to the point where in the finale it's almost non-existent, the piano track of the score. And so without the piano towards the end of it, it is creepy. The score, it's very haunting and very, again, like the show is this isolation kind of theme, and the score feels like that in the intro. It feels really isolating. Like everything is just coming around you and you're like trapped in this music. At least that's the way I felt, especially without that piano. It's just like this creepy kind of strings and everything that's happening towards the end of it. So I don't know of any other intro on this list, at least to me, that does that changed the score throughout the season. Like, that's really cool. So, and I believe most of the visuals, I don't think any of them are really from the show, or maybe they are. Again, I did look back on it, but that is, the score really is the thing that stands out. The visuals a little less so, but really cool visuals too. I think they were they kind of shaded them as well, so it was very dark, and so really captured it. So yeah, I mean, I think it has to be pretty high. The whole score thing alone, I think, is going to put it pretty high here. So maybe top of C tier. I think it is a shorter intro as well. It's only about 20 to 30 seconds maybe. It's not too long. So yeah, okay. We'll put it top of C tier then, over Better Call Saul for now. We'll put it there. But really, really interesting score thing, and a really interesting decision for that. Okay, so this one, and I really don't think there's anything else like this on this list, or I mean, in any TV show. This is the first one I've ever seen something like that, and that is Peacemaker, where it's literally a live, live action intro where it's really just this dance number. It's just a great choreography of this intro. It appears, it doesn't really look like that because they cut it, but it appears as this kind of one take thing where, we get character entrances in this where they kind of cut to, but it really seems like they kind of just come on stage with the other actors and just continue the performance, right, of this dance, basically. And then the song is just so great too, right, that they have in there to go along with the dancing and the choreography. It's just perfect. Like, it's all just really great. And then, of course, at the end of the intro, you have the eagle fly in and make the kind of the cawing sound, like caw, right? And the eagle comes in and goes on his shoulder, I think, right? So yeah, I mean, there's just nothing that I've seen quite like this before, and it is something where yeah, you don't want to skip this intro because it's just so fascinating to see like what the hell is this? What is going on here? So yeah, and you know, of course, it's not the most sophisticated. I even debated on putting it on this list because it doesn't have, there's not much art involved with this, but it's just so damn unique and so funny, right? It just so fits the tone. James Gunn, you know, brilliant in working with the tone of the show and everything and making it unique, and the intro is no exception to that. So I don't know where I would put it. This again, it's kind of hard to even rank this with any of these other ones, but it is really unique. So, you know what? I don't know. Like maybe bottom of C tier, perhaps. It's just so hard. It's so hard to include this, but it's so unique and something like, or you know, not really like anything else on this list. I don't know. I'm gonna have to put it at the bottom of C for now. I think it is great, but I don't know. It's hard to compare to stuff like True Detective and stuff like that. But maybe that's a little low too. It's so unique and funny and okay, whatever. We'll put it at the bottom of B for now. With that, so we'll stick it there for now. Okay. So next then is Mad Men, of course on AMC, you know, starring John Hamm. Who else do we got? Of course, Elizabeth Moss, right? A bunch of others. So Mad Men, great show. Only watched about 4 seasons of the show, and then kind of fell off of it. You know, maybe one day I'll go back and finish it, but a pretty iconic intro. I think, you know, obviously Mad Men was never the most popular show or the biggest show in terms of the kind of the cultural impact. Nothing like Breaking Bad or The Sopranos. But in terms of quality and critical acclaim, easily up there with those shows. So really great. And so, of course, the intro, as a result, doesn't get the same attention or buzz as probably some of those other shows. But I think the art, you know, the artistic approach here is really cool, which basically shows, you know, Don Draper, his kind of character is like falling from the building at the very beginning, and then we get, it's a great music as well that goes along with it. I think it's a score that was composed for the show, I think. But yeah, so a really great intro sequence, but it just, like, it doesn't really stand out. Like, when you think of Mad Men, the intro isn't kind of one of the things that you think about, at least in my opinion. It is on the shorter side as well. I think it's only about 30 seconds or something like that. So, yeah. I don't know. This is kind of a tough one to rank. I honestly think I like The Terror better than it. But again, I think I have to put it over these two because it's just a longer intro and it has that kind of artistic appeal to it, with a great score as well that's in there. So, yeah, I think I'm going to, but maybe it's not as iconic as Breaking Bad and Better Call Saul. So, yeah, you know what? I'm going to put it at the bottom of C tier for now with a few of those other shows there in C tier. Okay. So next is What We Do in the Shadows, the comedy on FX. I absolutely love this show. You know, obviously it's kind of had its ups and downs to me, and the final season is coming in just a couple months, so really looking forward to that. But it is a really great intro. It really is, and this is, like I've been talking about with kind of making nods to the actual show and the characters. They do that. You know, in this intro, we see kind of portraits of the characters in their kind of history of them, because obviously they're vampires in the show. They've been alive for hundreds of years. And so we kind of see these different versions of them and the history, of course, and they are really funny, right? Just even the pictures are funny. And the song is really great in it. I'm forgetting the name of the song right now, but it's a really great song. And it's not an original song, but they do use it in the intro, and it is really great. It's on the tip of my tongue here, right? Anyway, something about dead, right? And so obviously it goes along with the whole vampire theme of it. And so yeah, right. It's like you're dead, right? And so it kind of repeats that towards the end of the intro. Yeah, it's really cool. It kind of completes it as well. And yeah, like I said, the artistic kind of side of it is really cool, where they show the portraits and everything like that. But it's not the longest intro either. It's only about maybe 20, 30 seconds, if that actually. It's a very quick one. And then we kind of get the logo at the end, and then a kind of, vampire or some sort of figure runs through the logo. So that's kind of a cool touch at the end as well. So yeah, I'm not sure that I want to put this one that high, because it's not the, again, most sophisticated intro, but I do like the nods to the characters and the show. It kind of adds something, it really does. It adds a little bit of humor as well to it, and the song is really great. So, I might put it above these then, right here in C tier for Shadows. I think that's a fair spot to put it. Okay, so the big one, Game of Thrones. I think it's got to be S tier, and I think I got to put it above Band of Brothers. But this is tough. Okay, we'll put it in S tier for now because it's for sure going in S tier. But this is what I talked about earlier on with the score and just like recognizing something from the first couple notes. This might be the biggest example of that of all time ever, right? Like the Game of Thrones, literally the first couple notes of that intro score from Raman Javidi, Javidi or something. I'm probably butchering his name, but anyways, great composer. He did such a good job with the Thrones, and obviously House of the Dragon now too. He's great. And by the way, House of the Dragon will not be on this tier list because they used the same damn song for that intro as they did Game of Thrones. So I refuse to put that on this tier list, just an FYI. But anyways, from the first couple notes, you know exactly what show this is, what you're watching. And the thing with Game of Thrones too, that maybe not everyone knows, but a lot of people, is they changed the intro from episode to episode, given the locations of where the characters were or where the perspectives were for that episode. I believe they do these kind of progressive maps of the world as well. Once places get destroyed or get damaged or stuff like that, it's reflected in the art of the map, right? In the actual map that we see in the intro of all these places. So I think that's really cool. And again, they didn't have to do that. That's just such an intricate detail that they throw in the intro there. Really some sophisticated art and animation with kind of like the building, right? Of buildings getting resurrected and going back down. And of course, the iconic swords, at the very end of the intro when we get the logo. It's just so good. So it's definitely got to go over True Detective. Yeah, I think it's got to go over Band of Brothers too. It doesn't have the stuff where, it's visuals for the show or anything like that. But I think that's enough to where they literally changed the map and they changed the, the little like sculptures, I guess, if you will, of the places to reflect what's going on the show. So I think that's enough as kind of a nod to what's going on, the action of the show in the intro, to put it there. So yeah, I think it's top of S tier. I'm not sure if anything will top it, but yeah. It's iconic. It really is, and obviously it helps that Game of Thrones is a big, massive show, perhaps one of, if not the, most popular and biggest show of all time at this point. So that really helps it as well. But yeah, the intro, it's undeniable how good that is. So, and not to be completely honest, like that's kind of was the inspiration for this video, is something like the Game of Thrones intro. So really great. Okay, so True Detective Season 2, my thoughts are similar to Season 1 here, because the design is very much the same. I love the song, Nevermind by Leonard Cohen, and I believe this is actually kind of like a remix, because we also have a woman's voice in it, and I don't believe she was on the original song. I'm not a Leonard Cohen fan, I'm not completely sure, but I don't think so. I think it was just a version of the song that was made for this intro. And it's a really great choice because I think the woman's voice in it kind of adds a degree to it with Leonard Cohen's like really deep and kind of grisly voice there, right? Kind of gravelly, if you will. So really love the song. I think the song is actually maybe the best out of all 3 seasons of True Detective. But this intro, I mean, it's literally copying the style of Season 1 with the kind of, silhouettes of the people, and then we see images playing out. but the images are not the same as season one. Like a lot of these images are not that important to the show. There's no like Easter eggs and that kind of stuff in them. So I don't know. I can't put this that high. Again, it is kind of a derivative of season one, which did it so well. So yeah, I'm not sure. Again, the song is really great, and yeah, I mean it's a good design. It's just been done before. That's the issue here. So, this is tough. I'm probably gonna put it top of D tier, maybe above counterpart there, because it is great. It's just derivative at the end of the day. So yeah, we'll put it at the top of D tier there. And I do find it funny because I like the season 3 intro better as well. So the intros are actually ranked in the same order that I would rank the seasons in terms of quality. So kind of funny there. Okay, next then is Godless on Netflix. This is one that I remembered, going into this video of like, oh, that was a pretty good intro, right? And then I went to rewatch it for this, and this may be the best score for any of these intros. I don't know about that. It would be close, but I love the score. Again, talking about within the first 3 notes of this score, you know what the show is, right? You recognize what it's a miniseries on Netflix. I believe it aired in 2017. So you know the show, but it captures the environment, the time period of a Western. It just does it so well within the first couple notes of this very kind of this country kind of vibe to it. And again, like the Western vibe, really, really cool and kind of loud as well, in your face, really goes into it at the very beginning. So really captures your attention. And I remember watching the miniseries. This was like, I would never skip this intro, right? I did think that. And now the visuals don't really match. I don't think we see the faces of some of these actors in the intro as well, but they do a good job with kind of shading all the images, so they're never really clear. We're kind of just seeing little bits and pieces of things, and we're kind of in darkness. There's a lot of shadows being used for a lot of these visuals, and it's very golden, right? There's a real golden tint to everything that we're seeing, and brown, so it's really establishing again the color, the kind of the vibe, the Western kind of feel to this whole show. So yeah, I think it's really great, and again, the kind of artistic, the animation as well in a little bit of it, with some of the stuff going back and forth, and the editing here, I think it's really impressive. So yeah, love the score for this intro, and I think the visuals are pretty good. So this is a tough one. You know what? I think it's actually very similar to Black Sails, because I love the score of Black Sails, but it doesn't really, touch on specific things. And Godless actually maybe even shows characters in the show, or in the intro rather. So I actually think I'm going to put Godless above Black Sails in B tier there. But I think they're very similar in the way that they kind of, again, like I said with Black Sails too, it establishes immediately the world that you're in and the time period that you're in, and just does that so well with the first few notes of the score. So really great stuff there. Okay, so next is Justified. Love the song that's used. Long Hard Times to Come, I believe is the title of it. Just great. It's like this country, but hip hop, kind of remixed song, and it sounds really cool and fits the Justified vibe perfectly. I mean, just a perfect song for what Justified is kind of has this kind of cool, kind of shiny, maybe you could say, or kind of that influence of hip hop, right? Like Raylan Givens is kind of cool, sly sometimes, but obviously it's a Western, right? And it's based in a rural Kentucky, right? That's the setting. So you're getting the country vibes and that influence, but then you're also getting the hip hop there and kind of the beat in there, which kind of, is a little bit kind of captures the tone of the show and the character of Raylan Givens. So I think it's just great. It's such a good song for the intro. Now, the intro isn't, amazing, right? It's pretty much just the actors' names, the credits, and it's not a very long one either, but it's kind of just the credits, and then the images we get are just of like kind of rural towns, I believe, some stuff like that we're seeing, some like a river maybe in one of the shots. So it's nothing special, and it is a little dated, I think, to me, watching it back now. And then we get the logo of Justified comes up at the end. So yeah, I think the music is really great for it, but the intro in itself is, there's nothing too special about it. Yeah, so I'm going to have to put this probably pretty low, unfortunately, for Justified. This really hurts. It really does. But yeah, I mean, it's just, a great song, but the credits themselves are not that, nothing really special stands out. So we're going to have to put it probably... I almost have to put it below Counterpart, because Counterpart has the visuals, it has the artistic side of things, but the song is really great and Justified. So I don't know. I think unfortunately, I might have to put it at the bottom of D. I hate to do it. Justified's one of my favorite shows of all time as well. So I really hate to do it, but I have to be honest. I have to be honest with all the other shows here, with all the other intros. If we were ranking songs, obviously it'd be near the top, but yeah, we'll put it in the D tier there, under Counterpart, unfortunately, for now. Okay, so then Masters of the Air. This one is probably my least favorite of the three, right, with Band of Brothers, Pacific, and Masters of the Air. But this was really great, too. I think it's Blake Neely, I want to say, is the composer for the whole season of Masters of the Air, but for this intro score as well. A really great score. I mean, just really, really great. And in this one, actually very similar to Band of Brothers, I'd say it's the most similar, actually, is, again, we see visuals of the season. So literally, moments and sequences from the episodes themselves are kind of playing out in the intro here. I don't believe we see any real footage, because I think in Band of Brothers they include some real footage of World War II as well. I don't think we see that in Masters of the Air. I could be wrong, but I don't think we see that in Masters of the Air. It's specifically just visuals of the show and the scenes taking place, and it's a great score, like I said. Really makes it. And again, it's like a 2-minute long intro, almost 2.5 minutes long. Like, it is extensive, and it is really great. It really establishes the tone of the show, and again, the kind of war theme that you would expect, really great in this as well. So the one thing, though, it doesn't really distinguish itself as an air, right? Like Masters of the Air, obviously the Air Force is the main focus of this one. It doesn't really set itself apart in that way in terms of the score, maybe. So maybe I could see a little bit more of that, but I don't know. I do really like it, though. It really was a great intro. Obviously, never skipped it while watching the season of Masters of the Air. So yeah, this is a tough one. It's got to be under these, because there's not really, the big artistic approach to it like some of these. But it's got to be similar to Band of Brothers, because it is, it is very similar to it. So it's got to have a similar ranking, I think. I do really like, the visuals of it, but I don't, this is a tough one. This is a really tough one, because I don't want to put it too much lower than Band of Brothers. I may have to put it in the B tier. I might take it over, but these are just, all of these are really great. I don't know if I could put it over them. Let's put it above Dark, maybe, or maybe above The Regime as well. Yeah, Black Sails and Godless too, maybe above them. So maybe I'm looking at the bottom of A then for Masters of the Air. Yeah, let's put it there. I think that's a fair spot. It also does kind of capture like the big moments of the show, and I love that about Band of Brothers. So we'll put it in A for now. A lot of discussion, but we'll put it there for now. Okay, so an absolute classic, Walking Dead, one of my favorite shows of all time, and yeah, the intro is iconic. Talking about, again, like I've said many times now, within the first couple notes of the score, you know exactly what you're watching. And again, Bear McCreary, right, is here for The Walking Dead. The score is just so haunting, so creepy, and I believe the very beginning of the intro is that doorknob that's kind of slowly turning open, which, obviously we kind of are led to believe there's a zombie or a walker on the other side trying to open the door. Really haunting and really just a fascinating thing to do that. And yeah, just a really creepy intro with all the visuals for it. Everything that's going on, and of course I am only referring really to like the early season intro, because they do change it. I think it's in season 11 or season 10 where they actually completely change, becomes like a whole animated thing, and I do like that intro as well, but I'm talking about the original intro for the show. With all these kind of creepy visuals, and we get the farm field as well with the crow going through. So just, to me, obviously loving the show. It's such an iconic intro that I just never, ever skip. It really is great. Now, is there a lot of nods to what happens in the show? Not really. At least, probably not past season 1, right? Or season 2, in terms of that. At least I don't recall that they change it. I could be wrong, but I really don't think so. I really do think it stays the same, like I said, until the late seasons of the show where they changed it up. So because of that, score is great. Yes, it stands out, but the visuals of it not as much. So and the logo at the end coming up with The Walking Dead is obviously iconic as well. So yeah, I think I'm gonna have to put it maybe below Black Sails, but the score is pretty good and the visuals, but it's not. Yeah, that's so tough. I don't. Maybe over Godless, I guess, just because of the iconic nature of it, and the visuals of it. But it was a show from 2010, right? So you can tell in the intro we're not quite as sophisticated as Black Sails or Godless in terms of the artistic and the nature of it, the editing of it, but for the time, really, really good visuals and everything. So, this is tough. I don't know. I think I gotta put it, it's so iconic. I'm gonna put it over Godless, I think, maybe, or maybe below Black Sails. The Regime is really good with fitting that, but no, I'm gonna put it there because I think the score and everything just captures it so well, and that is, I feel, very similar in Godless and Black Sails, and the Regime either as well. So we'll put it there at the top of B tier, an iconic TV intro for sure. Okay, next then is Mindhunter on Netflix. So this is actually one where I first thought about it and I was thinking, yeah, that intro, I remember the intro, but it was okay. I didn't think it was anything special. But then I went back and watched it, and I didn't realize this because I remembered that it's mainly just the sequence of them, basically getting the recording machine ready, right? He's getting the spiels, or the spiels, right, of the tape, is it, right, for the tape recorders, and he's kind of spinning that around the machine and getting everything set up, pushing buttons in and out and that kind of thing on the recorder. But then what I completely forgot is they actually flash images of these really gruesome crime scenes and the stuff that takes place, from as the product of what these serial killers did, right? And so it's and it's really haunting, actually, the way it plays out in the intro, because they'll have, 5 or 10 seconds just straight of just kind of simple stuff with him adjusting the machine, and then all of a sudden it just flashes in your face this gruesome, you see a severed body part or something like that, right? And it's just this really gruesome thing, and it really fits the vibe of the show well, because it is like that a lot of the show. It's very much these conversations that all of a sudden go to this dark place, and we're kind of stuck within these flashes of these horrific images and horrific stories, and that's the whole nature of the show. So they really, really great. The score is good too, I think. It's good. It's not as kind of creepy without the associated images that are playing throughout the intro. That really, as a package, makes it kind of a little unnerving, but the song itself or the score itself doesn't. So I wouldn't put this that high. I do like it though. Like I said, it was a little bit better than what I remembered for sure, and that's why it made it on this list. But I wouldn't. I can't put it that high. So I think maybe over justified in the D tier there. It's a little more sophisticated than justified for sure, but again, it's not the most artistic intro either, because it really is like almost, at least it looks like, just kind of images of man's hand adjusting the machine and stuff like that. So I know there's more to it, but that's the main thing of it. So I'm gonna put it there in D tier. Yeah, probably below Counterpart there in D tier. Okay, so next then is Dark Winds, and this is a very new one as well. They've had a couple seasons now on AMC. Zon McLaren starring in it. Really like season 2. I really like season 1 too, or season 1 as well. But season 2 I thought was a step up. Really recommend this show, by the way, if you have not seen it yet. Really great, kind of exploring Native American, a little bit of the myths and kind of the supernatural element, but it is more of like a crime thriller, I guess, if you really got down to the genre of it. But anyways, I really like this intro, and you know what is kind of funny is it actually does kind of follow the True Detective Season 1 style. So I did talk about this earlier, about how True Detective Season 1 kind of started a trend, and you actually can kind of see it in Dark Winds. Now, what is it, 10 years later, probably, after True Detective Season 1? So, or 8 or 10 years later. So, you see it. You really do. There is a little bit of that where we get the silhouette of Zon McLaren in his cowboy hat, and then we get the image playing in his head, in the hat, right, of the intro. But there is a little more to that. It's not just those silhouette, the kind of True Detective style. There is more to this, and I love just the artistic the artistic approach of this with the colors they use and everything. I really like it. I think it's really cool. The moonlight that they have at one point, and then the sun kind of comes up as well over the screen. And the score is pretty good too. Doesn't blow you away, but I think it's good with what the intro is. So yeah, I can't put this too high. Again, like I talked about True Detective Season 2, like it is a little derivative. So yeah, I don't know. Maybe below Counterpart. I think that's maybe a fair place to put it, or maybe above Counterpart. We'll put it really close to True Detective Season 2 because, again, it's using that similar style for sure. Okay, so next then is the 4400, which is a really interesting one. I think I only watched about 2 or 3 seasons of this show, and obviously I did not, given my age, I did not watch this when it was first airing. I did watch this on Netflix almost 10 years ago now, though. At least 8 or 9 years ago that I watched the first few seasons of this, and it was so cool to see Mahershala Ali, before he even went by that name, in the 4400. I think that's one of the first things he was ever in, and he was so great in it. So kind of funny, and here he literally is here on this list again for True Detective. But anyway, so really great, and I really enjoyed a lot of the 4400 for what it was, and for when it came out in 2004. I think it was kind of ahead of its time. I don't think it's the best show of all time or anything like that, but I think it was ahead of its time with a lot of the plot points, and it feels very kind of in the same vein as something like Lost, right? Where it's kind of this mystery box show, if you will, with new things showing up, each episode and definitely each season, where we had these 4,400 people that were believed to be missing for years and years, right? Generations of time, and all of a sudden they all return at once in a split second in this park. And so it's kind of, getting to the bottom of that, and of course this mystery box of all these different things that arise as a result. So yeah, really fascinating concept, and like I said, for the time it came out in 2004, I think kind of ahead of its time. Now, for the intro though, I think it's actually a pretty good intro. Like for the time, for 2004, I think the art, some of the stuff is cool. It's actually really like time-lapse video, or time-lapse kind of sequences, where, for example, in the one point they show a cigarette right? And so the cigarette is full at the very beginning, and then like just very quickly, like a time lapse, it is kind of, shrinks down to the butt end. And so it is kind of symbolizing that all this time has passed, and here we are. And then we also see another sequence of a house, right? Like a wall of a house. And then we see the cracks coming in, and it's kind of deteriorating over time. And so it's kind of a bunch of these sequences in a row, just kind of symbolizing the fact that time is passing between them believed to be missing, and now they're returning to the world, and the world is a lot different, right, than when they were in it to where now they're returning. So yeah, I think it's just such a cool approach. And again, like for a time lapse kind of concept, again, 2004, like it was pretty impressive stuff. The song is also pretty catchy, like right away, within the first like few seconds. I think it's really great. It's a really catchy song, and it does kind of set the vibe. It's a little bit of this kind of creepy song, a little bit. It's this very kind of, I want to say angelic voice a little bit, right? And it's kind of like they echo the vocals as well with the song. So yeah, I think it's fine. Obviously the fonts that they use are so outdated. You really it really does date itself in that way, for sure. It's not the longest intro either. It's a pretty short one, but for what it is, I think it's pretty damn good for 2004. So where would I rank it? I don't know. I think some of the visuals are better than Justified, but at the end of the day, it's very similar to Justified, where we literally are just seeing things in the background and then text on the screen. The song is actually not as good as Justified, probably, but yeah, I think we'll put it above Justified, just because some of the visuals are a little more sophisticated, like I said, and showcasing that time is passing and that kind of thing with the time lapses. I think it's kind of cool. So yeah, we'll put it at the bottom of D tier there. Okay, next then is Narcos on Netflix, and I'm not sure if they used a different intro for season 3 of the show, but I'm just referring to season 1 and 2 with Pablo Escobar. You can see from the poster here. It's just the one that they used for the first 2 seasons there, and I really enjoyed this intro. The song is great. It's sung in Spanish, I believe, right? I think it's in Spanish, and so obviously, immediately with it being not in English, with it being in Spanish, the language of where this takes place in Colombia, right? It very much sets the tone of where we are, right? The location, the setting of where this story is taking place. And then it also shows, I believe, the map, right, in the intro as well, that we're seeing the specific, points where they're following Pablo Escobar around Colombia, right, and these different targets and that kind of thing as well. And I believe we see pictures of Pablo Escobar as well, even maybe the real Pablo Escobar in some of this images there. So yeah, I thought it was really cool. It's a bit of a longer one. I think it's over a minute long. And then we also get, I'm remembering, we also get the kind of like cocaine, the powder, dropping onto the surface and kind of splaying out over the map and some of the images and that. So I think it's pretty cool. It doesn't show any, I don't think, kind of images of the actual show or any sequences like that. So I do have to dock it for that. Because I do prefer that, obviously, but it is really cool. It really does kind of set up a lot of the stuff for the show, and the song is really good too. So where would I put? I think somewhere in this area, maybe with Dark, maybe above Dark, actually. I think that I may have to put it there, just because, again, compared to Dark, it does maybe showcase a little bit more of the world and the story that were taking place, and the hunt for Pablo Escobar and all that stuff. So I think that's pretty cool. Okay, so the next is The Man in the High Castle, and this one I only watched, I think, part of season 1. I'm not sure if I've actually finished season 1 of The Man in the High Castle. My biggest frustration with the show is I wish it was just grounded. I really love the concept of The Man in the High Castle, and I was not familiar with the book that it's based on when I went in to watch the show, but I just wanted a grounded show about, the Nazis winning World War II and taking over, North America, right? And basically occupying it. That sounded fascinating to me. But, of course, there's like a whole other, you know, side of the story that kind of takes away from, obviously, from that. But anyways, the Man in the High Castle. So I thought this intro was pretty good. It wasn't anything special. This song, or is it song or a score? I can't quite remember, but it isn't the most memorable. It kind of fits. It really does fit the intro well. And then we get kind of visuals of the Nazi logo and kind of where they've taken over. So it is kind of establishing the world very much, right, in this intro. It is doing that, and that obviously kind of helps the show, in establishing those visuals, and I think it kind of shows maps as well of where the Nazis have taken over. So yeah, and then Japan as well, right? And then they showed the Japanese and Nazi flag combined in it as well. So yeah, I think visually, it's a good intro. It kind of sets things up, and the song kind of goes along fine with what it is. So. I'll have to probably put it, probably above the 4400 just because it's a little dated. Mindhunter, would I put it above Mindhunter with the music? Probably not. So maybe, bottom of D tier here with Man in the High Castle. A fine, serviceable intro. I like the visuals for it, but nothing too special. All right, so the next we have Power on Stars, and this is one that I still don't think I've seen the final season of Power, but I absolutely loved the first few seasons of the show. I haven't seen the show in many years, probably about 7 years, or I can't remember actually when season 6 was. So it was when season 6 was about to air that I just stopped watching the show for some odd reason. But I did really enjoy a lot of the run for the show. And this intro, man, I have so much nostalgia for this. A great song with 50 Cent featuring Joe, I think is the artist, that he wrote, I think specifically for the show, but at least it was an exclusive song for the show. It was the first time it was ever released, and it was used for the intro. It's called Big Rich Town. If you've seen Power, you know what I'm talking about. Unfortunately, was it the later seasons of the show or something like that where they remixed the song and used a different version of it, and it was like I almost had a heart attack when I heard the intro for the episode, and it was a different song and it just did not sound great at all. So I hated that. And I think they brought the original song back after that because a lot of the fans agreed with me and thought it was terrible. But anyways, an amazing song, The Big Rich Town, and a lot of it, of the song and the lyrics is because I think he wrote it for the show. It's very in line with, the actions of Ghost, our main character. I think some of the lyrics like legal or illegal, I'm gonna make it, right? And so stuff like that is exactly Ghost's whole MO in the show, is that he, wants to be above board, but when things get tough, he's willing to go to the kind of immoral or illegal ways to get what he wants. As him being kind of this underground kingpin, if you will, or this kind of he kind of, I don't want to call it a gang because it's more than that. It's kind of like this crime sphere that he's controlling. But it's all underground because, he's kind of like a Gus Fring, if you will, that he's, to the public, he's an upstanding citizen, but of course at night, underground, he's a completely different person. So, really fascinating. And so the song, the lyrics of themselves, really match well and set up the whole vibe of the show. That's what's happening. It's this double life. So really great. And that may be the only show on this list, actually, where the intro has, lyrics like that are specific to the actual show itself and what's going on. So really great. And then the visuals are really cool. We get kind of, it's like a split screen almost, and then we get two sides of everything, of objects in that. And so we have like a hand holding a gun, but it's kind of split in the middle. And so we get kind of two guns pointing out in opposite directions. And just all kind of cool visuals. We get a skull as well, kind of a dark skull. And they use, the whole thing I believe is in black and white, right? And so we get these kind of splashes of white with the black skull in the middle, again being kind of split and being kind of emerging from the middle onto each side. So yeah, cool visuals. Don't really have much to do with the show. I mean, obviously there's guns and that kind of thing in the show. I believe that they have like cocaine or some sort of powder as well that kind of spills or something like that. So obviously those objects are in the show, but beyond the lyrics, nothing that's that specific with the show. But I will say, I mean, my nostalgia for this intro and the song, I know like almost every word to the song. It's just so damn catchy when you watch the show, and I never skip this intro, that's for sure. So after saying all that, I'm not sure. Without the whole visual component, it is cool. It's a little gimmicky, right? It is, because the whole intro is basically the same split screen. But it's not, it's not the most artistic, the most unique thing ever. I don't know. I'm thinking kind of in the world of Mad Men probably here, with the song being in there as well. It's a little better than this because I think it really stands out because of that song. Yeah, maybe a little better than, but True Detective is kind of using that same style and that kind of thing. So it's very similar to True Detective to me. Because I love the song in True Detective as well. The visuals maybe a little better in Power. So you know what? I'm going to put it at the bottom of C for now. This may also be my kind of nostalgia and love for it after all these years. But anyways, we'll put it in C. It is my list after all. Okay. So next then is Yellow Jackets. This is a pretty new one too. Season 1 I think was in 2021, and Season 2 was just last year. But this intro, man, I believe they maybe use a different version of the song in Season 2, so I am referring to the Season 1 intro version because that is so good. The song No Return, so good, and it was written for this intro, I believe, for the show, and it is so good. It's kind of this like punk rock, I believe at least, that's to me that's the vibe I get. But it's kind of this punk rock song, and it's just it's so unnerving. Like, it really is. It's not even like a score, but it's just so unnerving. Her the vocal, the female vocal on it is just so, like, the way she pronounces words, like no return. It doesn't even sound like she's saying return. It's like so creepy. Just the way that she's saying it, and the kind of the screaming in the background and all that stuff going on. And then the visuals is really cool because they shoot it like it's almost like this kind of Super 8 film, and it's filming these different, images and this stuff of the girls, right, the teenagers that are now in the wilderness as a result of this plane crash. It's showing these kind of visuals of them at school, in high school, and some things that I don't think we've really seen before, right, in the show. But it's these kind of things of, showing a little bit of their history, of their background to before this event takes place. And then we also see versions of them in the adult timeline in this intro as well. And of course, we see a little bit of teasing of the whole shaman thing and the horns on the girls' heads. So we get this foreshadowing of what we're probably eventually leading to with the show and how they survive in the wilderness. And we actually see teases of that in this intro, which is amazing. Like, the way that they show all of that, they show backstories of the characters, they give us a little more information about them, and they're showing us Easter eggs for the foreshadowing of the show that haven't even happened yet. I just think that's so sick, along with the song. And then also the fact that it looks like a Super 8 film, probably also trying to capture the time of when they were gone as well in the wilderness, which was the 90s, right? Early 90s. or was it early 90s? 25 years. So 25 years from 2021 would be, I mean, yeah, 90s, right? Yeah. So I guess 90, 95, 94, something in there would be the year that they were gone. And so they're kind of trying to capture that time with the way that the film looks. So I think this is sick. I really do. I think it's a really, really sick intro. It's not the longest intro, though. I think it's only about 45 seconds or something like that. But I got to put this pretty high. I really do. Like, I know it's new and it doesn't have maybe the iconic nature of some of these other ones, like Walking Dead, for example, but it's really great. I mean, it's just a really great intro. So, having said that, do I put it over Walking Dead? That is so tough. That is so tough to me. I think it's got to go above. I think it's got to go above Godless, because yeah, it's, you know, the artistic approach to it maybe isn't as sophisticated as something like Black Sails or Godless, but I maybe prefer the fact that it's actually just visuals and, you know, literal footage of the real people. And again, these teases of foreshadowing and stuff like this, I think it's really sick. So I think I'm actually going to put it over The Walking Dead here. I'm going to put it in the top of B tier. Again, if it had more of like a score, maybe I'd put it in A and S. But I think with the song and everything, I think we're going to put it in the top of B. Also, the fact that the show's only been around for about 2.5 years. So I think that has a part too. Okay. Next, then, is another show that is aired in the same year, I want to say, or maybe it was 2022, but it's Severance on Apple TV Plus. I have seen the first season. I was way late to the party. I only watched, I believe, at the start of this year, maybe, or the end of last year, very late last year. But I'm really excited for season 2 for sure. But this intro is really cool, and there's actually many kind of Easter eggs. I was reading some of the comments of people, and it's insane. Some of the little details, I mean, the most minute details of this intro, and they really mean so much. Like stuff like there was like footsteps in the snow at one point, but the footsteps were in reverse of the little character walking. Stuff like this. It's like insane. You know, like how did they have that foresight and put that work into that? Like they really didn't need to do that, but they did. And it's really cool. Like I feel like you would definitely notice something new every time you watch this intro. And it is almost just like this clay animation, if you will. Like it obviously, like, it looks like Adam Scott, but it is kind of this animated version of him, and to me it kind of looks like clay. It almost, but I don't think it is. I think it's animation, but it almost looks like claymation, almost like this stop motion clay thing. And I think that's what they're trying to go for, but it is animation at the end of the day. And then I believe it's a score as well for this intro that is really cool as well. Again, it really fits the tone of the show, and fits along well with the kind of animated style of it. And this may actually be the only animated intro for a live action show on this list. Now that I look at it, I think it is. I guess you may say the Twilight Zone. Of course, in the 60s, they didn't really have the same animation, but anyways, yeah, I think it's a really cool intro. It's a really long one as well, over a minute long, I believe. So yeah, I think it's really cool. Now, does it show the most? Not really. It's really just showing the whole concept of this whole Severance thing. I do love the very end of the intro there, where we get kind of two Adam Scotts, two little figurines, and then they kind of match into one at the very end. And so it's kind of like the start of the show, and the whole concept of Severance as him being one person, and kind of, trying to figure that out and trying to gain his consciousness back in the work setting where he severed himself. So I think that's really cool. That's a really nice touch, but there isn't as much of that throughout the rest of the intro. It kind of just plays the same the whole way through. So it does have to be pretty high, though, on this list. It really does. How high would I put it? Would something like The Regime be above it? Yeah, I kind of think so. I kind of think The Regime may be above it. It is a really cool. It's really unique. Like, it really is unique. In terms of intros, like I said, with the animation of it, the score wasn't. It didn't blow me away though, I have to say. So, I think maybe, is it over Narcos, over the regime, maybe. I want to almost put it in the same area as Peacemaker, because to me, both of these are kind of just unique intros that kind of stand out because of the animation and the dance sequence, I guess, if you want to call it. Okay, maybe like above Dark then, perhaps, with that intro, with that song. I think it's a little bit better than that. Narcos, it might be a little bit better than Narcos. So, yeah, I'm going to have to put it right there. I'm going to have to put it below the regime for now, just because the score is not as good as the regime. Okay, but I think we'll put it there in B tier. Okay, next then is Stranger Things. This may be my biggest hot take of the video here, I'm not sure, but I do think, now, obviously a great score. I mean, talking about, again, like I've said many times now, but theme songs or scores of TV shows that just within the first 2 or 3 notes, immediately you know exactly what show you're watching. And because Stranger Things has become this whole big cultural phenomenon, obviously this intro is just iconic at this point. It's massive. Everyone knows. Again, even if they haven't seen Stranger Things, they know this song and they can associate it with the show. So yeah, that goes without saying. The score is amazing, really great. But it's actually not that sophisticated of an intro. It really isn't. Like, it at least in my memory, especially of the 4th season's intro, do they change it up much? I don't think so, but with the recent season, it's not that sophisticated. It really is kind of the red letters of Stranger Things, and then we get kind of the number that comes up in the background in the more recent seasons. So unfortunately, and then there's so much potential, especially for this type of a show, to have some really unique visuals and some really cool stuff to do. And at least in my memory, they don't really do that much in this, or at least not to the point where they could. It is really mainly the lettering, and which is cool. Like, I will say, the red is really cool. The contrast of it looks cool. But I think it's really carried by that score, that really great, phenomenal score. So I can't put it that high because of the visuals. The score is iconic, don't get me wrong, but the visuals, it's just not. It doesn't wow me. It really doesn't. So where would I put it here on this list? With having said that, the score is really great. So I think it's got to be above True Detective. I think it's got to be in C tier, maybe. Dark Winds. I mean, but Dark Winds has better visuals than Stranger Things. Like, this is the thing. Counterpart probably has better visuals. Mindhunter, I think, does. So maybe above Man in the High Castle then. Man in the High Castle does have some good visuals, but it's, the score of Stranger Things and just the whole vibe it sets, I think, is better, and it's a little bit more iconic. The 4400 has some interesting visuals, but not much. So, anyways, we'll put Stranger Things there in D tier. I know that's pretty low for what the show is, but I have to be honest. For what it is, that's kind of my opinion on it. All right, so then next we have Yellowstone on Paramount Network, obviously, a massive show that's kind of blown up within the past few years, and I'm not exactly sure what's going on with the show. I only watched season 1, maybe not even all of season 1 of the show, but I did watch the pilot the night it aired, and did a review on the channel, so kind of funny to look back on that one if you're at all interested to hear my thoughts. I was really impressed with the pilot, for sure. But anyways, I think this intro is really great for Yellowstone. The music, I actually think this is more similar to Godless to me. The music is similar. It's this Western kind of theme music, so it immediately gets you in the setting and the vibe of the show. And it really kind of, honestly, the art of this intro is better than it should be, really. For what the show is, it is really cool. The yellow and the black and the contrast of that, and seeing some of the oil cranes up and down, and the one crane comes crashing down at the one point. Really cool. And then you see, I believe it's a cow or some, a cattle, right? Kind of running through. A bunch of them kind of running through, and one of them falls down, I think, and stuff like this. So really just a cool artistic approach to this, again, with the colors of the yellow and black, and then the score with setting it in that western setting, I think is really effective. So it doesn't blow me away though. I think it is, again, like, the score is great, captures it well. But it doesn't, obviously the oil cranes, there's a few kind of references to what's going on in the show, but no real, images or anything like that, real sequences, and nothing that, really stands out, that's specifically nodding at the show, like a Severance or, a True Detective season 1. I've been over that so far. So, this one, I don't know. I think in somewhere in C tier for Yellowstone, because it does look really cool. I would say actually on the same level as Power to me. I think I would say that on the same level as Power because the images and the art, the kind of approach is similar to Power, and I kind of like the song better on Power. I think it's a more original song, so we'll put it there at the bottom of C tier for now. Okay, so here again is another S tier intro. It's Succession. It's kind of funny, by the way, how so far all of the S tier shows are on HBO. Kind of a funny thing there, isn't it? But anyways, Succession. I just got to figure out where to put it here, though. I mean, obviously the score from Nicholas Britell, unbelievable. I mean, just what an unbelievable score. That really, like, the beginning is so loud, it really ebbs and then flows as the intro goes on. Just unbelievable. An unbelievable piece of music that so captures the tone of the show as well, with it being so loud and then slow, loud and down again. Just really great. And then the visuals. I mean, seeing the kids in the past, getting actors as well to, like, in these intro little images and stuff that look so alike, right? Like, they just look so like the older actors, the adult actors that are playing them. And then seeing, them taking a picture with the dad and everything like that. And then we see, the skyscrapers as well. We see some of the current images with what the world looks like now, and then we kind of flash back and forth between the history things. It almost looks like this kind of it's like this like a whole movie kind of thing, right? That's exactly what it kind of looks like. It's like this whole movie that the Roys have shot, that the kids are in there, and they even do it in a way where it's so accurate to what's happening, where some of the kids like go up to, and we do see Logan, right? We see a version of him, obviously a younger version, that's not Brian Cox. But we see Logan and the way he kind of just dejects his kids in some sequences and scenes of the almost like home video thing that's playing out. It's just brilliant. Like, the whole thing is brilliant. It really captures everything I've been talking about so far, really. It captures, visual images of the show, gives us backstory to these characters as well, nods to the show, a great score that goes along with it, that sets the tone of the show. To me, like, it really does. It really fits everything that I've been talking about so far so well. Really does. So, you know what? I may have to put this at the very top because it really does. I can't think of anything that really takes away from this intro, especially, it doesn't show specific scenes from, the show that's taking place, like something like Band of Brothers, but it's enough. It nods to the show and those visual elements, and also we see, like, news broadcasts as well in the intro and that stuff, with headlines about the Roy family. It really almost acts as this montage or this home video of the Roy family in a way, and especially for season 1, when we're still trying to get introduced to the family and the dynamics, it is such a great intro to establish that. So, yeah, I think I have to put it at the top of S tier. I put it over Game of Thrones because I think maybe the score for Game of Thrones is more iconic, but just the visual images, it's unforgettable for Succession here. So we're going to put it at the top of the tier list for now. Okay, so next is Suits then, and this one, Suits was and still is among one of my favorite shows of all time. It used to be a lot higher, but in recent years, and of course as a result of the final couple seasons, it did go down for me in terms of my rankings all time, but still really enjoy the show, really love it. And this intro, talk about nostalgia for intros. This is it. This is it right here. I started watching Suits probably back in 2014, so we're talking almost 10 years ago now. And hearing that intro back then, that feeling, I love it. I love it. And obviously the Greenback Boogie, amazing song for the intro here for Suits. In terms of the rest of the intro though, it's not that special. It really isn't. It's about 30 seconds long. It's not the longest intro either. And we really only get 4 or 5 cast members' names, and then we get Suits, and then we get Harvey and Mike walking kind of out of frame. And so, yeah, that is really the whole intro, is just, images and video and footage of, Patrick J. Adams, Gabriel Mocked, right? And I think it's just them two. There's no other actors that are featured in this intro. It's literally just them two. And I don't think we see any of the footage that's in the intro in any of the show itself. But, it is basically just footage of, scenes and stuff like that we would see in the show otherwise. So it's nothing too special. They do kind of shade it with some colors. We get some blues, we get orange and gray that kind of, wash over the screen to cover these visuals. So it does make it a little kind of unique, but at the end of the day, it's not too special, especially compared to a lot of these other ones here. But that song is quite iconic. That's a great one. It's the Greenback Boogie. So, and I, like everybody else back when I was watching it, had no idea what the lyrics were to that song, the way it's pronounced and everything. So that was a little funny one too there, to go along and try to figure out what the lyrics were to this intro song that I'd been singing, for years watching the show. Anyway, so yeah, really great memories with Suits. I think I'm going to put it maybe somewhere in here. I would probably actually put it over Stranger Things. I probably would. Probably not Mindhunter. It's got to be similar to like the 4400, like something like that. But we do see visuals as well. So I think I may have to put it over Stranger Things, but below Mindhunter. I love the song. It's a really great song, but the intro itself is not too special. But you do get those visual elements of it still, which I think is better than Stranger Things, which is just the red text. But a great score, really great score. Okay, so next then is the 100 on the CW. This, very similar to Suits, but still kind of is one of my favorite shows of all time. Absolutely love the first, I would say probably 4 seasons. I really like season 5 as well, actually. Season 7 really shit the bed, obviously, but I do love the show. But in terms of the intro, they do change the intro, I think, from season to season, like a little bit. It's not too much, but I am mainly referring to like the season 1 intro then. Where we get a great music choice for this. I'm not sure if it's an original song or not, but it really captures the world that we're in, especially the grounders, right? Early on in season 1 and 2, with the kind of, I'm not exactly sure how to describe it. It's kind of like these cheers or these kind of echoes. It's almost in the vein of like a Native American, right? Because that's kind of how the grounders are modeled in the first couple seasons. But it's almost this Native American kind of shouting, if you will, in the song within the vocals of it in the background. So it really gives this kind of I don't know, maybe like this tribal kind of feel to it, or this vibe. And like I said, for the first couple seasons, that really fits well, especially with the pilot too, the way it ends. It really fits it well. And it is kind of, you get the scope, you get the feeling of the scope with the way that the intro plays, and we see this map of the world, and we see all these kind of like connections and these dots emerging, and it just is so big and so vast, and we really get that idea of the scope with it. But having said that, like, there's nothing really, there's some nods obviously with the map and where they are and stuff like that to the show, and like I said, they do switch up the intro to kind of coordinate with what's going on. So I guess in that way you could say it's similar in the vein to Game of Thrones, but it's not episode to episode like they did, so not quite on that level, but it's kind of similar, I guess, the way they change it from season to season. But yeah, so overall, no really specific nods to what's happening in the show, beyond just the general season approach. The song is really great. The score is great for it. The scope, it's not the longest intro either. But yeah, I think it's good. I think it's, it's serviceable for what it is for sure. So I'm thinking probably about Yellowstone. Again, visually it is interesting. I'm not sure exactly how they would do that. Probably some sort of animation with that. So I think we'll put it, under Yellowstone there, or maybe even higher than Yellowstone. I'm trying to think, with the visual aspect of it, maybe it nods more to the show a little bit. So, maybe there, or do I even take it over Power even with the song of it? Yeah, maybe I take it over Power. Mad Men, take it over Mad Men, maybe not. I don't know. We'll put it right here, the 100 intro. I do really like it. I do, but I think that's a fair spot for it. Not too high with what it is. Okay, so then The Last of Us on HBO. This was obviously from just last year, season 1. The intro. This is a great intro. Like, it really is. I believe I didn't play the video games. I'm a TV watcher first. But I believe they use the same music that's used for the video game as well, or at least a very similar version of that for this intro, which is really great. And then the whole intro is really this whole fungus growing and kind of, these different branches of it kind of growing and sprouting in different ways. And then it all kind of connecting, which of course is the whole nature of the show, and the whole apocalypse is that this fungi has spread, and it's kind of latching on to everything. Everything's all connected, right? Into this kind of hive mind, if you will. So a really great intro. Just artistically, it looks so cool. Really great. And like I said, the music, I think, is really a nice touch. Though I do have to kind of dock it, though, because it's not necessarily an original music or anything, because it is kind of based off that video game that was, composed years and years ago. But again, it's an adaptation, so it is kind of cool to use that same music as well. So I don't know. There's different ways to look at that, but yeah, I think I gotta put it pretty high in terms of The Last of Us. Probably somewhere in this tier, maybe very similar to something like Black Sails, actually, the way it goes, because yeah, I think it's gotta be in this kind of vein, maybe similar to Severance even, but I maybe put it but Severance has that animation, that style to it. I put it above Dark, probably. Narcos, I'd put it above Narcos, probably. So yeah, I think I may actually have to put it below Severance there, because I think I like the Severance, the animation style a little bit better, but I do really, with the kind of the people in it, but this is a really good intro for The Last of Us for sure. Okay. So next then is The Deuce on HBO. I watched, I think, 2 seasons of The Deuce. I respected it quite a bit. I appreciated it. It wasn't, my favorite show, but I did watch a couple seasons of it, and they do change the intro, I believe, from season to season, like pretty significantly. There's different songs actually used for each intro as well. So I'm just going to be using the season 1 intro, which I think is the best one anyways. A really great song, and Actually, I did watch the Wire intro, even though it's not on this list because I haven't seen the show. It's actually very similar to the Wire intro. It's actually showing, scenes and sequences of the time period where we're depicting the setting, especially too. Obviously, the show is all about kind of the porn industry and the start of that, and prostitution and all that stuff. And so and I believe it's in New York. That's where it's set. So it's showing that, the time period that they're depicting. I really can't remember. I want to say the 70s or the 80s. I want to say. I can't remember fully though. But it's really great at depicting that time period. It's just kind of these like different visuals and images of what's going on. And I believe it's real footage, a lot of it. And then you get also kind of the fictional footage that they've shot, kind of piecing it together, and it really captures it well, and it's a great song. I believe it's if there's a hell down below, then we're all gonna go. I think that's what it's called, or that's kind of how the song goes, and it's really great. It's a really great song to accompany it. So I do really like it. Again, no visuals, of the actual show itself, but really setting the vibe for it, and it's a long one as well, about a minute and a half. So, I really appreciate this intro. So, I'm not sure where I would put it. Maybe, again, I kind of coming back to all of these. It's really hard to compare to some of these ones. That's tough. I think it's got to be in this tier though. In the B tier, we got the song is pretty good in it. The images and that stuff. Okay, so you know what? Let's go around Peacemaker, maybe above Peacemaker there in B tier. I think that would be fine for the Deuce. It is a really good intro and capturing what the show is really about. Okay. So then we have The Offer on Paramount Network. This was the miniseries from 2022, I believe, all about the making of The Godfather. Miles Teller plays Albert S. Ruddy, the producer, and really the one behind getting the movie made in the first place with The Godfather. So the thing I love about this intro, and the main reason it's even just in this video, is the way it pays a homage to Paramount, the old Paramount Studios and just Hollywood in general, with also adding that kind of modern flair to the intro, and even nods to The Godfather too, with the way that obviously the font that they use in the intro is the same font that they use for The Godfather. But even a bunch of the images are actual of like old footage of what the Paramount Studios looked like. The Hollywood sign, for example, and stuff like this. Like, it's just really cool to me for them to, because they didn't have to do that. Like, the whole show really, but especially the intro, really does a good job of paying homage to that time period and what, Paramount was like at that time. And obviously the setting that the movie was made in, and like I said, then we get the modern touches. We get like some images of a guy holding sunglasses, which we see in the show with Matthew Good's character at one point. So yeah, I think it's a really cool blend of old footage with new footage, and then the font comes in there as well. I think the score is pretty good. Nothing amazing, but pretty good for what it is as well. So yeah, just overall, I really respect what they did with this one, and a lot of nods, obviously to what's going on the show with it for sure. So I'm gonna have to probably put it below Yellowstone, but I may actually put it higher than Yellowstone, just in the way that it's kind of paying homage to it. Nothing that's like groundbreaking though. I maybe put it around. Maybe in the D tier, actually. Maybe top of D tier. It is doing a little bit more than Yellowstone, though, I think. So, okay. So, let's put it there in the C tier above Yellowstone there. Okay. Next, then, we have 1899, Season 1 on Netflix that got canceled for some reason. I still don't know why it got canceled. It's the same creators that created Dark, and they got themselves another amazing intro here. If you want to talk about like just specifically the artistic animation or effects, I'm not exactly sure what it went into this, but this may be like at the top. Like, this is unbelievable. Like, just watching this intro play out is just so impressive with the way that the effects look and just everything, with like some visuals of the ship kind of emerging through this huge kind of wall of water, and it goes through. It just looks so cool. And the colors of everything, and this green and blue and the dark stuff. The dark kind of shadow over everything looks really cool. The score is good, nothing amazing though, but I had to highlight this because visually, from a visual standpoint, like, this is unbelievable. So yeah, really great work that they put into this one. But yeah, I can't have it too high. I would maybe do it. I would maybe put it, along with Yellowstone. It doesn't completely set the vibe either. Like, it kind of shows the kind of, teasing of the dimensions and everything like that, which they obviously play with in the show. So, yeah, I don't know. Like, maybe at the bottom of C tier. I think it's a step up from True Detective, because of just how impressive the art is. So we'll put it at the bottom of C tier there, behind Yellowstone. Okay, so the next one is another iconic one. It's The Office, the U.S. Version, obviously. And I haven't seen the whole show, but I've seen majority of the run, probably 4 or 5 seasons of it. So yeah, nothing special with this intro, like, I have to be honest. Nothing that special. A really catchy song, right? The theme song. Again, everyone knows this theme song. Even if you haven't watched the show, you probably heard it. Really iconic theme song to it, and of course the intro, nothing too special. Like, it really is kind of just the classic sitcom intro, where we see some of the characters, some of the actors in it, and then we get some of the images of Scranton, right, and where they are, kind of the settings. So yeah, it's kind of a quick one. It's a really iconic one though, so I had to put it here, but I wouldn't put it too high. Obviously, it's nothing special. So because of the song, I think it's pretty cool. You know what, though? Do I put it in E tier just because it's not really on the same level as a lot of these other ones, with the song and everything? But you know what? I mean, I may have to put it above some of these ones. Stranger Things. Visually, it's more stimulating than Stranger Things. Probably better than Suits as well. So yeah, let's put it there. Let's put it a little above Suits there, below Mindhunter though. I think that's kind of a big gap between Mindhunter and the rest of these ones here. Okay, next is Heels then, another very modern one. And this is from a couple years ago. Unfortunately, the show got canceled after 2 seasons. Really quite tragic, but Stephen Amell, Alexander Ludwig, Chris Bauer, really great acting in this show for sure. And the intro was really great. I really do like it. It's not going to be that high on this list, but it is great. I believe it's an original song that they wrote for the intro, and it's actually kind of like Succession. We see, almost like this home video style of these 2 brothers when they were younger, and we see them fighting. Right, they're kind of pushing and shoving each other, and so we kind of, obviously that's kind of the basis of the show. Obviously, all these years later as adults, they're still doing the same thing, and to see them as little kids, I think is kind of cool, right? To see that again, in this intro, and again, kind of like that home video style of this. Now, that's not the whole intro, though. There are kind of other images and stills and that kind of thing showing like the wrestling ring, right? And all that stuff, with the ropes and that, and kind of, especially towards the end of the intro, we're literally kind of in the Duffy wrestling arena, and we see all the seats laid out and the ring at the very center, and then we come down and the word Heels comes across the screen on the ring. So yeah, I think it's really cool. The song, I think, is really good as well. It doesn't necessarily match the vibe of the show, but it is a good song to kind of go along with it. And I really like that home video style that kind of matches that Succession vibe. So I think I'm going to end up putting it above Power, probably. Just because, again, it kind of has those images of the show and kind of that nodding to it. But the song is again, it's a good song, but it doesn't really match the intro that well. So we're going to put it there in C tier above Power for now. Okay. Another S tier intro here. This is the Pacific, and I actually like this one better than Band of Brothers. It does what Band of Brothers does so well in showing the images and these little scenes and moments that appear in the show itself, but it adds a little bit of an element to this where we get it's like almost this pencil, almost, right? But it's this lead, it's this piece of lead, and it's just constantly being drawn across a paper, right? A little kind of a blank piece of paper. And then as the intro keeps playing, we get this, we realize that this, lead or this, whatever it is, this kind of like stick of lead that's being held and by a hand is actually drawing out the scenes and the images that we then, play out. So we literally see the drawing then on the piece of paper, and within about a few seconds, it kind of dissolves into the actual, video footage of what's going on in that scene. So it just adds that extra element to it that makes it so cool. And even just the drawings, like the shading of all these characters, and then when you actually see it in video form, it's just so cool. It adds an extra kind of touch to it. So I would put it below Game of Thrones, though. It's not as iconic. Great score for this as well. Just amazing work. For this, it's a long intro again. It's probably like 2, maybe even 2.5 minutes. It's a great intro, though. And so, yeah, I take it over Band of Brothers just because it adds that kind of extra element of having that kind of drawing as well, as it kind of fades into the videos. Okay, so next then is The Sopranos, and this is maybe the toughest one on this tier list. Looking at this ahead of time, I'm like, oh God, where do I put The Sopranos? Because obviously, I woke up this morning, got myself a gun. Iconic, right? Like just the first couple lines of that intro, absolutely iconic. After the HBO screen plays, you get those 2 lines. You know exactly what show you're watching. It's great. Like, what a great song. Woke up this morning, I believe it's by Alabama, right? Or Alabama 3 or something like that, their band name is. But, yeah, amazing song. Really great choice. It was not original, but they did get it for the show. Or I believe so. I don't think it was written for the show, but anyways, great song. But I have to be honest here. The whole intro really is just Tony Soprano driving around. Like, yeah, it is cool to see him. It is. And, at the end of the intro, it all kind of brings it up together because he arrives at his house and then he gets out of the car. But it's not really that sophisticated of an intro. It isn't, right? It is good, though. It's kind of setting up, the setting of New Jersey, right? New York, kind of where they are as he drives through the city, through the neighborhood. We get the kind of visuals of what it is around him and all this stuff. So that is cool, for sure. But it ultimately is kind of this handy cam that's showing him just driving in his car. So this is the tough part of this because, yeah, it's an iconic song. The intro is iconic just because the show is so great. And I love the intro. Like, it's probably one of my favorite intros. But if you're looking at it like this and comparing it to all these other great intros, I just don't know that it can be, S or A tier. It just can't be quite on that level to me. So, I don't know. I'm thinking somewhere around something like Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad, where the visuals of the intro and the song and everything is iconic, but actually it's maybe not as sophisticated as some of these other ones. So, yeah, I mean, again, though, like, the whole approach of just video, of recording him driving around the city is unique in itself because and of course we have to acknowledge that this was in 99. So, it wasn't on the same level as a lot of these other modern shows, and they didn't have the same things at their disposal. That's a given, right? So fair enough. But where would I put it? That's tough. the Terror, would I put it over the Terror? The visuals of it and the score of it, I don't think I can. Something like Power comes to mind. I think visually it's a little bit more intriguing than The Sopranos, but the song is kind of on that level along with that. So I might put it below Power. The song is probably better than the 100 for sure. The vibe of it is maybe a little bit better. The Offer, visually was kind of cool, but okay. We'll put it above the 100 there. We'll put it below Power. But does that seem right? Like, this is so tough. Like I said, probably the most difficult one to rank in this list. This just feels so wrong to have The Sopranos this low, but based on my criteria and what I've talked about with comparing it to these other shows and their intros, it's just so tough to put it any higher than right here. It really is. So I think we're gonna leave it there. I think Power's got a leg up on it. It really does. But this is such a iconic song. That's the thing about it. And then you probably got to put it out over Heels because of the song of Heels. And I may actually put, I did like Heels, but I don't know. We'll put it right there. We'll put it below Mad Men for now. Again, it's just not that sophisticated visually, okay? That's what I'll say. Okay, so next then is True Detective Season 3. I do like this better than Season 2, but again, it's using a very similar style as, where is it here? The True Detective Season 1. It's the same style. It's the silhouettes with having the art or the images within the silhouettes. I do think there's some more nods, though, than Season 2 to stuff that happens in the season, for sure, but not as much as Season 1. So I do like the song as well. I actually like the song probably less than Season 2, though. So I think I got to go right here with it. I think it's the same problems or the same issues as Season 2, but just it's just better. Like, it's just done a little bit better with the way that it nods to the season and the stuff that's going on within the show. So I'll put it there. Okay, last but not least, I mean literally, like really not least, because this is one of the best damn intros on this list. It is Westworld on HBO. So if you haven't noticed the trend by now, an HBO show intro, yeah, I mean it's a pretty good bet that this is going to be pretty high on the tier list for now. But yeah, this is a tough one. I'm not sure if it's S tier. Is it S tier? It probably is, isn't it? So the score for this is amazing, right? The score for this is amazing. I know Westworld's really fallen off, it's not even on HBO's own platform now. That's how bad it is, or how bad it got. And I only watched the first 2 seasons of the show, so I think in a lot of ways I was kind of spared for the last couple seasons. But this intro was just, I mean, it knocked my socks off, watching season 1 of Westworld. I hadn't seen like an intro that was this detailed and this impressive, where it just showed kind of these sculptures and the modeling of them with the hosts and all that stuff in it. And like I said, the score goes along with it, the piano that plays. And I believe, is it the same score that's actually used in the show later on? The same piano score or the same notes of the piano? I believe, if I recall correctly. So that's a really cool touch as well. And yeah, just all of the art in it just was really cool. I think that's just iconic of, I forget what it is, but it's someone that's riding this horse. And just the way this white horse looks, the way they do it, I think it's really, really impressive stuff. And a long one again. It's like about a minute and a half. So I think it really fits the show well. Really intriguing visuals. A great score to go along with it for the intro. So I'm going to have to probably... I probably put it over Masters of the Air. I probably would. Just because... And again, like how sophisticated it is with the art and everything that they're doing. I just think it's really impressive. So I think I'll have to go over Masters of the Air. This Twilight Zone one is so random because it's like so iconic, from all the years. But It's hard to compare with these modern ones. Okay, let's go maybe over Masters of the Air, I think, on Westworld on that intro. It's just so impressive to me to see that Westworld intro. The first time and even all these years later, I think it really still stands out. So that'll do it. Those are all of the show's intros for this tier list, at least that I have put together. The 42 best ones from the TV shows, of course, that I have seen. So that'll just about do it. These are the final tiers. So the S tier, my top 5, which I think is a great top 5. We have Succession at the very top, Game of Thrones, The Pacific, Band of Brothers, and True Detective Season 1. And then we got the Twilight Zone iconic one, Westworld, Masters of the Air as well in there. I really like this B tier. I think we have some really strong ones there. C tier, certainly have some iconic ones there. That's a great stretch. With those. And then that D tier as well, with Justified being actually the bottom of the barrel. That really hurts me, but I think that's actually a fair placement for it. A great song, but not that great of a visual intro. So that'll do it. That'll do it for this tier list. So lovely to hear your guys' thoughts on any of these shows, and of course shows that I did not include here that I maybe should have, if you think that they have really great intros and all that stuff. So yeah, love to hear your guys' thoughts either way on that. But that'll just about do it for this one. I look forward to the next tier list video that I'll be doing hopefully soon. So anyways, thank you guys so much for watching this one, and we'll see you then in my next video.